Shalom, shalom, Israel's brothers out, but y'all are coming back out to another cold cut. I like to give all honor and glory and praise to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, right? I like to give double honor to the men out there on the highways and byways, just pushing this truth and honesty and sincerity, leading their households, right? And keeping this mighty feast of dedication and this new moon coming in tonight with their family, with the congregation, right? The mighty sisters as well, preparing for these high holy days, keeping the commandments and guiding their households, and the mighty children as well, abiding in their parents' households. Shalom, shalom. It's going to be a quick cold cut. I had to get a cold cut on my break. Just kind of going into, are you a fool or are you wise? What do fools do? And what do people that have wisdom do? How do fools tend to act and how do they tend to live? And what do wise people do and how they act and how they tend to live, man? Are you a foolish servant or are you a wise servant? Which one are you? This applies to women. This applies to children. It applies to men in this thing leading. Which type of brother, sister, child are you, man? Are you actually trying in this truth? Are you enduring all things? Or are you constantly murmuring? Are you constantly complaining? Let's see how fools live. Because our forefathers, as though you had righteous forefathers, most of our forefathers were fools, man. Right? Not the ones that we know, right, that set the pace and the example for us to how to live today, right, in this truth, but those that went off and sinned, those that committed idolatry, those that murmured against the Lord. Let me get this in Hebrews chapter 3. It's Hebrews chapter 3 in verse 7. Wherefore, as the Holy Spirit saith, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts as in the provocation in the day of the temptation in the wilderness. Right? Because fools, they willfully go off and do what they want and not submit themselves to the Lord. Because the Lord said in Deuteronomy 6 and 16, he told our forefathers this. All right, let me go to Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse number 16. All right, like it says, in the day of provocation and the temptation in the wilderness. Didn't the Lord say don't tempt him? Didn't the Lord say don't tempt the Lord thy God? In other translations, don't test the Lord. But our forefathers provoked and tested the Lord day in and day out. All right, it's Deuteronomy chapter 6 and 16. You should not tempt the Lord your God as you tempted him, my son. And that's plain. We shouldn't tempt the Lord our God. Right, but let me get this in Deuteronomy chapter 8. Actually, no, that's all I wanted on that. Well, actually, let me go to Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verse 2. And it says, and thou shalt remember all the way which the Lord thy God led thee these 40 years in the wilderness to humble thee and to prove thee to know what was in thine heart, whether thou wouldest keep his commandments or no. So we were in the wilderness for what? So the Lord can prove us. But we ended up proving the Lord. We ended up tempting the Most High after he told us not to. Right, let's prove that. Let's read on in Hebrews chapter 3 and verse 9. When your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works 40 years. But we just read in Deuteronomy 8 and 3, the Lord was supposed to prove us. But guess what? We started proving the Lord. What can the Lord do for me instead of what can I do for the Lord? And some of us have, that's how fools think. Some of us got that mindset. All you do is pray to the Most High and ask him for different things. But what can you do to serve the Most High even better? Baruch 4 and 10, you got to seek the Lord 10 times harder if your mind went astray. But we think the Lord is a genie. We think the Lord is, he serves us. Whatever we want, we snap our fingers, we throw up a half-second prayer, put no thought into it, and the Lord is just supposed to answer us. Right? That's not how that goes. Let's go to the book of Proverbs chapter 8. How do fools live? Actually, let me go to the book of 2 Peter. Let's get a fool. All right, let's get another example of what a fool would do. This 2 Peter chapter 2, and I'm gonna start at verse 17. I'll start at verse 15. Which have forsaken the right way and are gone astray, following the way of Balaam the son of Besor, who love wages of unrighteousness. Fools love wages of unrighteousness. Fools tend to go astray and go to the left and to the right hand. Right? I mean, you see it even in these movies. What do these Edomites do? You watching a movie, what's that? No, come over here, Holly. No, what's that, Dad? Right, and Holly goes over there. She starts rubbing through sticks, and a hand grabs her, and then she goes to God knows where. Right, that's what happens. But in this truth, on a spiritual level, guess what? We go to God knows where. If you start following astray after this world, you start going after your mind, your lust, the Lord is going to give you over into your destruction. Right, you start loving the wages of unrighteousness. And it says, verse 16, but was rebuked for his iniquity. The dumbass speaking with man's voice forbade the madness of the prophet, right? Talking about Balaam, right? Baalams. in Numbers, right? When the donkey came to him and it was rebuked by the Most High, and the Most High used the animal for that. Verse 17, these are wells without water, clouds that are carried with a tempest, to whom the mist of darkness is reserved forever. What's a well without water? You dry. You have no living waters within you. See, the righteous, they will have wisdom and they're going to be flowing with living waters. But a well is going to be, they're not going to have any water within them, man. They're going to be dry as a morsel. All right, let me go to the book of Psalms 101 to prove that. Let's see what King David said. It's Psalms chapter 1. I'll start at verse 2. And it says, Psalms 1 and 2, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doeth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. So if you're going to be a tree, you're going to grow. You have to grow within his wisdom. But a fool is a well without water, meaning what? Unprofitable. You know, you have nothing to deliver. Your mouth, you always have something to say. You can't take any correction. You go after your own lusts, and you keep going to the left hand and the right hand. But the wise is not going to do that. The wise is going to take heed. All right, go to the book of Proverbs chapter 4. Are you a fool or are you wise? All right. It's not about how you feign yourself to be. It's about what you actually do, even in darkness. It's Proverbs chapter 4 and 20. My son, attend to my words, incline thy ears unto my sayings. Let them not depart from thine eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine heart, for they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Right? These are the things that wise people do. They watch over their mind. They don't let anything into their mind. They just don't let anything in, or just look at anything that's going to affect their temple. Right? They're going to guard their mind. And it says, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Ponder the path of thy feet, and let all thy ways be established. Turn not to the right hand nor to the left. Remove thy foot from evil. And that's what wise people do. They remove their foot from evil. Now let's get another example with a fool. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 8. So when you're going through these precepts, you got to say, damn, is that me? Do I do that? Am I a victim to that? You got to self-examine. I, myself, you watching this, whoever. We got to understand, are we living with a wise man or a wise woman would live, the same way they would live? Or are we living how fools live? And are we lying to ourselves? All right, this book of Proverbs chapter 18, now start at verse 2. A fool have no delight in understanding, but that his heart may discover itself. Right? A fool doesn't want understanding. A fool's going to click off this and say, yeah, I can do, hey, look, that ain't me. That ain't me. Right? That's what a fool would do. And guess what? He's going to get caught up in his own madness, and he's going to learn the hard way. That's what it's saying. Right? It says, but that his heart may discover itself. I mean, his mind, he's going to do what his mind is telling him to do. And guess what? He's going to have to figure out the hard way instead of learning from other people's mistakes, learning from other people's mishaps, from other people's counsels that they will give him. He would say, nah, I want my mind to discover itself. That's that person that want to touch the fire after everybody said it's already hot, man. Don't touch it. Well, I want to see if it's really hot. That's that person right there, man. Right? But what did King Solomon say? Let me go to the book of Proverbs 26. He said he went by the fool of the slothful and got wisdom and understanding. It's Proverbs 24 and verse 30. I went by the field of the slothful, and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding, and lo, it was all grown over with thorns. So guess what? This is that same man, that same fool that hates understanding. So King Solomon, he said, I went by the field of the slothful. That person's also slothful. They don't want to be corrected. They don't want to change. They don't want to grow. They don't want to do the things that's going to help them grow. And what else it says? It says, and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding, and lo, it was all grown over with thorns, and nettles had covered the face thereof. And let's say you see somebody lawn like that, and it's had thorns, vines all on the house. It wasn't cut in 30, 60 days. You can be like, dang, they're not taking care of their lawn. That's the same. That's how your spirit is. If you a fool that don't delight in understanding, right? People gonna look. They gonna be, dang, hey, You got to take care of your spirit, brother. What's going on with you? Right? Ed, you look like that same lawn. Right? And it says, and lo, it was all grown over with thorns, and nettles had covered the face thereof, and the stone wall thereof was broken down. Then I saw and considered it well. I looked upon it and received instruction. Right? So you got to look at that type of person and say, okay, I understand now. You got to hear this counsel and say, okay, all right, I understand. I'm not gonna do that. Right? Are you a fool or are you wise? Let's go back to that Proverbs 18. And it says, I jump down to verse 4. The words of a man's mouth are as deep waters, and the wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook. Right? It is not good to accept the persons of the wicked, to overthrow the righteous in judgment. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for strokes, man. Meaning you just say anything. But a few verses before, it says, verse 4, the words of a man's mouth are as deep waters, and the wellspring of wisdom as a flowing brook. So you can either spit wisdom, talking wisdom. The Lord says like a flowing brook. But a fool's mouth is going to enter into contentions. What do you say? Do you just say anything wrong? There's a time and place for everything. Do you say the right thing at the wrong time? Right? Or vice versa? Do you have a bar or door over thy mouth, man? As it says in Sirach chapter 37, paraphrasing. Do you have control over your mouth? Do you have control over yourself? Right? Because wise people, they're gonna have temperance over their body, over their spirit. But foolish people, like the scripture says, they're well without waters. They're not gonna mind these things. Right? Verse 7, a fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of a soul. And the Lord said your lips are gonna trap you up, man. What you say, these are things, and like I said, these are the things that will fools do. Right? We can go to the book of Proverbs 16:25. Actually, let's jump down to verse 25. Proverbs 16:25. What the Lord say? 16:32. Proverbs 17:28. That's what I wanted. Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise, and he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. So even a fool can pretend to be wise. Even a fool can not say anything and be counted as wise. Right? Which one are you? All right, let me get to the book of James chapter 3. So we got to understand something, man. We got to live. Actually, go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4:3. We have to do the will of the Lord, so we can be counted as wise, man. Right? It's 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse number 3. For this is the will of Yahweh, even your sanctification, that we should abstain from fornication, that every one of you shall know how to possess his vessel in sanctification and honor. So you have to know how to possess your vessel. You got to know how to, and it's the spirit, the new moon and the feast of dedication tonight, right? You got to know how to rededicate your temple, right? Taking out the filthy stones and putting in the new stones. You got to know how to take care of your body on a physical and spiritual level. A fool is not going to regard these things. A fool is going to let anything in his temple. A fool is going to let anything in his mind, as we read earlier, right? Sanctification and honor. What else it says? Not in the lust of concupiscence, even as the Gentiles which know not Yahweh. And guess what? If you're a fool, you live like the Gentiles. If you're a fool, you tend to get on the so-called white man, white woman, these other nations, but you're going to die right next to them because you're living after the ways of them. You may say one thing, but your actions dictate something else. Right? Integrity, honor, these are the things that a wise man was sought after. Right? Not just living after the way that he wants to live in secret. Right? But I'm on a time crunch. Let me get this last precept, man. Right? It's Luke chapter 21 and 34. So you want to watch over your spirit. You want to guard your spirit. This is Luke 21 and 34. Take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, and that day come upon you unaware. So you got to continue to watch. Fools don't watch. Fools just let things happen to them. But a wise man is going to prepare his work without. Right? A wise man, that's Proverbs 24:27, I believe. Right? A wise man is going to take heed to himself and check on his spirit and self-examine. So I'd like to give all praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, right, and been a mighty strong. Shalom.